that the revenue is not meeting expectations and that the expenditures are exceeding expectations. So we are now, even just this short period of time, about $1.5 to $2 billion short of meeting revenue expectations for the 2008-2009 budget. That should not be surprising, because since 2001, the in-year expenditures of the state of California have exceeded the in-year revenue. I'll say that again, because I think sometimes that is lost. Inside each of the fiscal years since 2001, the state of California has had to rely on borrowing of some form in order to meet revenue necessary to pay the expenditures that were included in the budget. So if you want to know what a structural deficit is, that's it. It means we don't have enough money to meet the expenditures. How come? Well, there are constitutionally mandated expenditures, federal regulatory mandated expenditures, and California statutory mandated expenditures. And all of those continue to grow, and they have continued to grow at a rate much greater than the revenue coming into the state of California. As you probably know, shortly after the budget was signed, Governor Schwarzenegger indicated a great deal of concern about the cash position of the state. The state controller last Monday and Tuesday sold $4 billion worth of state bonds, mostly in denominations to the general public and not to institutional investors. So there probably is sufficient cash, sufficient money on hand to get the state of California from here until December the 1st. The key point about December the 1st is that that is the date on which the new legislature is sworn in. You are aware of the fact that there has been some discussion that the governor would call an extraordinary session of the legislature. The leadership of both parties in both houses is resistant to calling this legislature back into session so close to the time when it will in fact be terminated and leave office. Terminated in a kindly, less offensive sense. They will live on, just not as legislators. So I think that there is some concern by the legislative leadership that if there is to be, an extraordinary session of the legislature, it will take place after December the 1st when the new legislature is sworn in. That does not mean that we are outside of the problem area meeting the cash flow needs of the state of California, or in fact the income needs of the state of California for the 2008-2009 budget. Clearly, there will need to be more money, and clearly it will have to come in the short term during the fiscal year from borrowing. What kind of borrowing are we talking about? Well, we're talking about such things as internal borrowing. Keep in mind that as part of the budget that was passed and was signed, the legislature authorized the taking of Proposition 10, that's first five money, and Proposition 63, that's mental health money, to be used to assist the state of California's cash flow and income needs. The bill did say that the money had to be repaid within the constraints of the fiscal year period, that's 18 months, and it has to be repaid at 110% of the pooled interest rate. The 110% was intended as a disincentive, if you will, to the state administration to take that money, but it's entirely possible that they still will take it. They will certainly look further at internal borrowing, that is, from those internal funds from which the governor already recommended taking $500 million, and the legislature approved that. There's some speculation that there may be another $1 billion available there. And clearly they will look at retirement funds, PERS, the State Teachers Retirement Fund, and the University of California Retirement Fund. Next on the list, Prop 1A, property tax money, and Prop 42, transportation money. As you know, they did not go near either of those, and there is a strong will in the legislature not to go there. But if they get to the point where they need a couple of $1 billion and can't go to the open market, and as you may have seen, State Treasurer Bill Lockyer said the last thing he wants to do is to go to Berkshire Hathaway at the interest rate they want. By the way, I should point out that last week's sale of state notes took place at some, depending upon the notes, at between 3.85 and 4.4%. That's compared